Welcome to Failing for You, where I'll fail so you don't have to, or even better yet, so you can too. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Failing for You. I'm your host, Jordan Yates, and today I have a very exciting guest on. This is Dale Parker. Dale, please say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Jordan's show here today.
Guys, I'm so excited. So, Dale and I met via LinkedIn, which I think is how I've met every guest I've had on here so far. But Dale's page was really interesting to me. So, Dale works for Keystone Oil and Gas. I said that correctly, right? There's a lot of
Keystone
Keystones.
Gas Services, yes.
It's Keystone Gas Services, yes. So he's an engineering manager there and kind of the jack of all trades. They were very lucky to convince him to go there, but he has so much industry experience, which he's going to get into because I don't want to tell it wrong. But I see him posting on a pretty regular basis, and he does this thing called hashtag on the dirt, where he's out there posting pictures of the guys at the work site, what they're working on. And I saw that. I was like, this is so authentic. This is so cool. He's always engaging with my posts. He's engaging with other people's posts. And I was like, Dale, you are cool. You have to come on the podcast. And he said yes. So he's here today. I'm going to stop talking. We're going to start asking questions for Dale. But Dale, once again, we're so excited to have you. You're a very special guest, and we appreciate you taking time out of a very long day to be here.
Well, I'm super excited to be here. I didn't set out to be on a podcast, but whenever you contacted me, I'm like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do hers first.
Heck yeah, I am honored. But okay, let's start with the basics. Dale, what is your job and what all does it entail? Just so we can get kind of a baseline of where you're coming from.
So my job is I'm the design engineering manager for our automation system. So what that entails is I help my CAD drafter get the schematics in order, the pan out layouts and more in order, and then we have it in our shop, which we've just started building our own panels. So I'm going through the teaching phase right now of teaching people that have never built panels how to build them. So that
Wow.
is part of what we do. The other part of what I do for the on the dirt side of things is, I guess you would call me a construction site manager. So I go out and I run the electrical construction crew to make sure that we get good installs for our customers, because sometimes, you hire a electrical contracting company and they have the best intentions, but maybe they don't understand your industry or how you do things or what your expectations are. So part of my job for Jim Sutterfield and the gang is to get out there and interface with the squad bosses and make sure we're all on the same page whenever we go to build out a site. So I wear two hats primarily, and then when they can wrangle me back into the office, then I help with pricing issues and some other things like that. So it's a very wide encompassing job, and it kind of puts a wrap around all of my previous lives and experiences, and I just kind of have it all in one place now.
That's so cool. And we'll get into your previous experience in the next question, just because you had a different hashtag there that I love. But before doing that, the sites that you're working at, can you explain a little more what your end customers are and what you're doing there when you're doing the electrical work? Like, who are you doing this for?
So I'm going to not disclose customers because they're
not their names. I mean, like
kind
the
of protected.
industry.
But what we're doing is
yeah.
So this is natural gas. So people have heard the term well pad. So we're at the well pad, and people hear that and they go, all right, so you drill a hole in the ground and the gas flows, and everybody thinks about Jed Clampett on the Hillbillies, and that's not the way it goes. There's a lot of things that go on. There's very professional people that come in and they have a special way to drill a hole in the ground safely, to get all the different piping and instruments on top of things. And our job is to control that flow coming out of the ground. We capture how the pressure is, how fast it's flowing. And then there's different instruments that you use to track that. There's also different pieces of equipment that you have that dry the gas and make it reduce pressure to a certain point, because a well might start out at 6,000 PSI coming out of the ground. but your sales gas transmission line that you send it to may only be 800 pound or 300 pounds. So you have to
Yeah.
process that all down and get it to whatever the end customer is expecting to receive off of that well pad. So there's a lot of automation goes on to get the equipment in shape to be able to control it safely, and that's the big thing is safely. A
Oh
lot of
yeah.
times people hear, "Oh, it's so dangerous." Well, it's dangerous when you do dumb things. So
Mhm.
we try not to do that. So that's one phase of what we do. In this particular case, the two projects that I'm currently running, they're about 3 miles apart, and the natural gas that's coming out of the well pad is being pumped up or is being pressurized and sent up over the hill to a compressor station.
Mhm.
And what a compressor station does is when the pressure from the well starts to drop. I mean, they go really hard and fast in the beginning, but over time they start to lose pressure. So what happens is maybe it drops down to 500-600 pounds. So when you
Mhm.
send it to the compressor station, the compressor has a setting, whether it be 800 pounds or 1,000 pounds, and the compressor brings that gas back up to the line pressure that you need to put it out to the transmission lines for the providers to pick up. So that's why it's a twofold project. You have to get the gas out of the ground first, but
Mhm.
then you have to control what flow it's going at whenever you get it up over the hill. So it's really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of equipment involved, a lot of automation in there.
Yeah.
And I try to tell the story of what the guys are doing and the gals, because I have twin sisters in their early 30s that are two of our technicians, and I refer to them as the twinsters.
The
And,
Twinsters, I love that.
and they're instrument folk, and they come out and help us install instruments. They're learning with our automation guys the programming side of things, and we're trying to bring all the team members up to a certain level so that
Mhm.
everybody feels comfortable and safe about what they're doing when they're out there.
Yeah.
So our owner Jim Sutterfield, he's really good about teaching the young folk on how things are supposed to work and what they're supposed to see in the programs when they're on site. So the two of us have a lot of teaching that goes on,
Yeah, I can
and
imagine.
it makes the day go fast. I can tell you that much. So I used to do programming myself, but because there's so much with the construction, the build, and everything to get ready for the build, he and I talked about 2 months ago, and I stepped back away from programming. I
Mhm.
turned in my programming hat, and now I run construction and run the physical side of things. So because when you're programming, you have to be able to lock down and concentrate. And with
Yeah.
trying to do the other things, there was no way I was going to do it well. So we made a decision as a group that even though I can do a lot of really good things programming, I stepped away. So you have to
That's
know
so
when.
hard being you and being so knowledgeable and so good at so many things. Like, you're an employer's dream. You're like the unicorn of this industry. But is that ever stressful for you having to be the guy that everybody has to like get knowledge from rather than being somebody that's asking? Like, is that ever stressful being in that position?
Well, I've always taken a lot of pride in being the teacher. When I
Mm-hmm.
years ago when I was in the steel mill and I was a plant engineer there, they always gave me the summer interns because I always, when the summer interns came in, I always wanted them to work on a project. I'd start them on it and have them work on it all summer, finish it. So when they went back to school, they could say, "Hey, I did something this summer. I wasn't looking at
Yeah.
spreadsheets. I wasn't following the safety guy around. I mean, I did something." I had a couple of my junior engineers that redid some hydraulics on a caster and reprogrammed it for the hydraulic technician. He was having fits with it, so my one young engineer Stanley, he went down and hung out in the hydraulics room and found out what they didn't have that worked, what did
Yeah.
work, and then he'd come back to me with a scope and what he wanted to do, and I approved it, and he ran with the project. So these guys, they had a chance to do things. You put your Motorola radio on and you get out in the shop and you go, because that's how you learn.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I
and
love that.
so part of, as you know, I'm not as young as I used to be. So part of it is 50% of my job is probably teaching at this point, because I
Mhm.
want everybody to feel good about what they're doing.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. That's so cool. And like you were saying earlier, you have some natural teaching abilities after being a hashtag girl dad, because from what I hear, your daughter has turned out to be very smart and impressive, just like you. So if you'd like to brag on her for a second, guys, Dale's daughter sounds like the coolest person ever, second to Dale, of course. But he was telling me about her. And Dale, tell us a little bit about her, and I
so
guess how you think you may have influenced like her growing up and taking the career path that she did.
So my daughter is a nuclear research physicist at Texas A&M, and she helps run the lab there, and also does research for customers and clients. I mean, one of the places that she went to visit not too long ago, she sent me a picture from San Diego. She was standing beside a SpaceX rocket,
Wow, that's so cool.
and she does also, part of her job is she does what they call destructive testing. And what happens is they'll bring circuit boards in from rockets or electric vehicles, and they put them in their lab, and they will hit them with lasers and record if the devices are still functioning yet, and then
Mhm.
keep turning up the lasers until they break. And part of that is because whenever they obviously send a rocket into space, they want to make sure it can handle the radiation.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize, that she also deals with the electric car manufacturers, because you have all that voltage and everything going on under the underbody of that car. So there's a lot of electrical noise there. So they test these circuit boards to make sure that whenever they're hidden in a compartment in the car, that they don't fail. So she does
Yep.
some really cool stuff. She's also on the grant writing committee for the university, to go out and get the research dollars so that they can keep the lab going. So I've always told her that, she could be whatever she wanted to be, as long as she worked hard, and hard work is her middle name. So
I
she's
love
done
that.
okay for herself. I mean, I'm the proud girl dad. There's no doubt about it.
When she was a kid, did you guys do like engineering type projects together, or like build things in the shop?
She was, at the time, she was more of kind of learning some things on the computer.
Mhm.
The first thing she did was that we got her a typing tutor when she was the software.
Yeah.
She was like 7, 8 years old, and she learned how to be a rocket typist, and
Oh
that
my
kind of
goodness.
started her. And then when she was in high school, she had a really good physics teacher
Mhm.
and a really good calculus teacher, and it really piqued her interest. And then when they found out she was pretty good at it, that's whenever the light kind of came on for her. So she's like, okay, this is kind of what I want to do. So I
Yeah.
told her that, whatever you choose to do, I'll support you. But at the end of the day, I want you to be, whatever path you take, whatever degree you go for, is I want you to be able to eat and put a roof over your head if anything happens to me. I mean,
Mhm.
that's what all parents dream of, is
Yeah.
making sure their kiddos are okay. So that's how she started, is that she picked a path. And let's be honest, I mean, she had 12 years of college in order to get that PhD, and she worked
Goodness.
her tail off to get it. So,
Yeah, that's
mm,
that's crazy. I couldn't imagine. I after my 4 year degree, I was like, okay, bye. I did enough. I'm ready to go make money. I'm tired of learning and getting not paid for it. So my threshold of school was much lower. So I have a lot of respect for people that are able to keep going and keep
well,
pursuing that. It's very
the
cool.
good thing is when she made it to she had her 5 years at IUP, and then when she transferred to Ohio University, they paid her to be a student, or not a student teacher, but a teacher with a stipend. And so she taught some of the junior physics classes at the university
Oh, how
and got
cool.
paid for it, and also got her credits for free
Wow,
during
that's
those two
amazing.
years. So she was getting paid, but in a different way. But she had enough. money from her stipend that she could afford her apartment and her car and everything else. So um, she she did very well in the fact that she walked away after all that time and only had 40,000 in student debt, which is unheard of.
Yeah, for that many years of school, like to be under, six figures of debt is crazy. That's awesome. That's so cool
Now,
for her.
now, dad probably ate 40,000 in wrecked cars and rent, but
We love
you
the
know,
bank of dad.
yeah. So that'll happen. I mean,
Yeah.
but the thing is, when she was taking her master's degree, she was already starting to pay down her undergrad student loans
Wow. That's
because
crazy.
that was one of the things that she said that she didn't want that to go on forever. So
That's
um,
very
she
responsible.
she's doing well with that right now. And I went to school in my 40s, and her student loans will be paid off before mine will.
So you went back to school. That's when you got your degree? Like, did you work for a while
Yeah,
first?
yeah. So I worked when I was a young kid. I was a truck mechanic, and I was going to college part or full time at the time, and I was working on my associates in math. And here I'm going to date myself. That was in '78 or '79, and I had an offer to become a full time truck mechanic. And now
Mm-hmm.
you think about this. This is 1979, and they offered me $12 an hour.
That's a
So
lot for then. Yeah.
so back then everybody was making $2 an hour.
Yeah.
So I had to take the job, and I did that for a few years, and then the industry changed, and I lost my job. So it was in the like '83, I think it was, or '84. I went back and got a computer aided drafting technology certificate so that I could change industries. So
Mm-hmm.
I started in the '80s as a junior drafter, and then I worked with some fabulous engineers that taught me PLC programming. They taught me pneumatics and hydraulics. They'd give me little projects, and when I could do that, they'd give me a bigger project, and I just kept
Yeah.
working my way up the ladder, and then popped a couple different jobs. Became project engineer, and in trying to think, when I was working for an OEM, I got laid off in 2001, and my wife and I sat and talked about it, and she said, you've always talked about finishing your degree. Maybe this is the sign that you're waiting to hear.
Yeah.
So I started back. I was 41, and I needed 3 classes to finish my associates at the local community college. And when I went down to reopen myself to go in, a guy who I went to school with in '79 was now the admissions director at
Wow.
the
That came
college.
full circle.
So I came in, and he says to me, "So you're going to finish what you started?" I said, "Yeah, I took a 22-year spring break. What do you want me to say?"
It was fun.
Yeah, so I started back, and I needed 3 classes, so I finished those. Transferred to Slippery Rock University here in Pennsylvania, and worked on and got my bachelor's in information systems. And at the time, I had gotten called back to work. I was taking 9 credits. My boss at the time, Martin Donor, who is a wonderful person, he was my boss for a long time. And whenever I worked at Tri-State, he was one of my customers.
Oh
We're
my
still
goodness.
good friends, and he supported me. He says, "I don't care what you got to do. You take day classes as long as you give me 40 hours a week. You have flex time." He says, "I
Yeah.
want you to finish your degree." And he is a PE, so he understood
Oh, wow. Yeah.
what was going on. So him and his boss, the chief engineer, Mark Menigo, they both supported the heck out of me for those 4 years until I got through it and got my bachelor's. And then I switched over and went for my master's degree in the evening. I said, well, if I've got this far, I'm going to keep
Might
going.
as well.
So
Yes.
I got a master's in engineering management, and that was 8 years, only taking 2 summers off to finish those 3 degrees. So there I
Goodness.
sat. I now had the experience, and then I had the college degrees to back up what I knew how to do already. So
Yeah. Yeah, then
it
you're
was an
unstoppable.
it was an interesting ride at that point, because one of their headhunters at the time had told me, he said, you had all this experience, but you didn't have your degrees. So he said,
Mm-hmm.
you got bypassed.
Yeah.
But then he also said, as soon as I flipped that bachelor's to the master's, I leapfrogged about 90% of the people out there in my field, because Now I had 20 some years experience and a master's degree, which
Yeah.
made me somebody people wanted to talk to at that point. So,
Um, so I'm going to transition us into our next sort of questions, which is going to be I want to talk about, since you already dated yourself, you are somebody with a lot of experience and you're in the later part of your career, but for some reason, you have been able to create an awesome social media presence with your hashtag on the dirt and the hashtag you did before that. I feel like a lot of people in your age group, or honestly, even younger, think that only people in their 20s can be good at this. Only people in their 20s should be posting online. But you're defying the social norms, and I'm obsessed. That's why I think you're, no, one of the many reasons I think you're so cool. And I want you to kind of explain your thought process behind these hashtags and the post you're doing and how it's been going for you. Just kind of tell us about it because I think it's very interesting.
okay, yeah, we can do that. It's not a problem.
Wonderful.
So you ready? You already hit the record button then?
Yes, so I'm recording. That was my question to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, we have to trust the technology at this point.
Yeah, right.
So how I got started is when I was working as a Rockwell distributor specialist at Tri-State Supply, and I have a lot of friends over there yet. Shout out to all those guys.
Yeah.
And one of the things that happened is Rockwell came to us as a distributor and said, "Well, you guys sell a lot of product, you do a lot of nice things, but the world is going digital. We need your specialists to have a digital presence."
Mm-hmm.
So of course we're sitting in the sales meeting, everybody's looking at each other like, all right, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So one of the guys, Al Magowski, who is a very knowledgeable drives specialist, he posted a couple YouTube videos. He's my age as well. So
Wow.
so Al start so we started calling him Al Spielberg. So we've been teasing him about that.
I love that.
So what happened is everybody's looking at us, and we're the PLC and automation specialists. And my friend Buddy Hellman and I, we got our heads together, and I said, "Well, we need to do something, because it's an ask of us." But I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Let's make sure that it makes sense for the customers, and we're going to tell a story that can help them." So that's when I came up with Modernization Mondays, and you see where there's so many people on LinkedIn like, "Oh, I ran into this old Allen Bradley controller. What do I do with it?" And
Yeah.
so what we did is we sat down and we thought about how to do modernizations and migrations and started to put it out there to explain it well, because one of my first slides that I put out there was a question slide, and I said on there, "Do you know what the difference is between a modernization of your system and a migration of your system is?"
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are looking at me like I have two heads at that point. Isn't that the same thing? And I said, "No, it's not.
Yeah.
If you're doing a migration, you're just trying to replace something in kind to get your machine back up and running, or your system or your process.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a modernization, you're stepping back and saying, okay, I know I need to replace all this stuff, but what better can I get out of it? Can I get data analytics out of this? Can I get networking out of this? Can I get it where it's easier for the maintenance guys to troubleshoot?"
Mm-hmm.
So that's the premise of what we got started on, is like, we need to talk to customers about modernizations, not migrations,
Yeah.
because we want the customer, if you're going to spend the money, let's make sure you get more than what you had before.
Yes.
So that's how we started. And what we did is we started with the platforms of Rockwell that people have heard of, like the old black bezel panel view classics, the old PLC fives, the old Slick 500s, and then we went over to the MicroLogix platform, because everybody's thinking, "Oh, that's going to be around forever." Well, what happened is COVID hit, chips became unavailable, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden, Rockwell's projected longevity path kind of went away on some of those products. So they went from being active to what they call active mature, which means, hey, it's going to go away soon, and all of a sudden it went into life.
Wow.
So all of a sudden you got the customers all here with holding the bag going, But what happened is we started posting all these things, and mainly we posted it. If you're familiar with Allen Bradley at all, they have what they call APRs, which is the
Mm-hmm.
area of primary responsibility. So we had of a geographic area at Tri-State Supply that we were responsible for.
Mm-hmm.
So my initial outreach was to get my customers in my APR to look at my stuff to say, oh, I need to get Dale in here to talk about this. I got a whole plant full of this stuff. So
Yeah.
that's how it started. And then what happened is people started out across LinkedIn, started seeing my posts and like, wait a minute, what's that? My Rockwell guys never told me about this.
Yeah.
So I'm going to see what this dude posts. So I have people that are way out of my zone at the time reading my stuff every week because I was posting valuable content that could help a plant engineer or an OEM or an end user. And uh, that's that's how I got to be a LinkedIn friend with people like Megan Zimba and Ali G.
Yeah.
And because whenever they would post something about Rockwell, especially Allie, I would chime in and say, well, I'd do it this way, or here's where you can get this. So she started teasing me about being the national Rockwell specialist. So that's how that came about. Was uh, good fun with her, that she poked me on it,
Yeah.
and then what I've noticed is that there's people from everywhere. I mean, I can't believe how many folks across the pond are looking at my stuff back then. So when I made the decision to jump to Keystone Gas with Jim and the team, one of the things that Jim and I talked about, he goes, you have a pretty solid following with your modernization Mondays.
Yeah.
Why don't you do something for us
Mm-hmm.
as part of what you do? So that whenever I was getting out there in the field, and I said to him, I said, Jim, what do you think about calling it On the Dirt? And he's like, I think I like it because
That's
that's where you are.
good.
That's where
Yeah.
you are. So that's when I started posting On the Dirt, and I every day I'm out there. I try to get a couple pictures, try to post. Maybe people are sick of looking at my pictures and my posts. I don't know,
They're
but they're
not. We're not. I told Allie earlier that you were coming on because her and I recorded before this, and she's like, I love Dale. Dale's so fun. Dale's so smart, like talking you up. So for the record, Dale, people like you. We like what you're doing. So even behind your back, we're saying good things.
oh,
So
yeah,
if
that
that
makes
helps.
and to hear it from her makes me feel really good because I have a lot. I put a lot of stock in what Allie says because she works
Yes,
her butt off, and
she does.
and if she says something is a good thing, then I'm in. So.
Yes, Allie speaks highly of you. So if anyone needs to have Dale vouched for, hit me up, hit Allie up. All of us LinkedIn girls, we know Dale, we love Dale, and we think he's
So
doing
so
good
what
stuff.
so one of my asks is somehow I got to get on Automation Ladies
I don't know if they've ever had a non-woman on there. I don't know if they must
because I
have.
could
I
I
think they
could go on
have.
I could go on and talk about the girl dad stuff
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I mean, we should message Nikki and Allie, and I'll tell them that like you actually have a good setup and that you're ready. So yes, like I'm gonna tell them that they need you on, that you're a good guest. I mean, they'll hear in the episode. They'll know. They'll be fun. They'll be so fun.
It'll be so fun. And the thing is, I connected with Megan Zemba because she's in manufacturing, and I
Mm-hmm.
worked for 3 OEMs over the years building machinery. So
Yeah.
I connected with her because I understand, what it takes to build a safe piece of equipment and put it out there in the field, and that's part of, I think, what makes it all fun for me is I always tell people before I started as a specialist at TriState, I worked for many of their customers. And I always told
Yeah.
everybody I spent 29 years as a customer getting ready to be a specialist.
Yes, that's how you really know what they need.
So that's the cool thing is that you take all the places you've been and all the people you've worked with and you roll that all together and then you become better at what you're doing. So that's how I kind of got into this. It was kind of by mistake. And then after I started doing it and people are looking at it going, wonder when he's going to post next. And that's kind of the way I view it is that I want to keep telling the story, and I want to tell the story like as we're doing this compressor station and this well pad simultaneously, I want to tell the story the whole way to the end whenever we
Yeah.
turn the keys back over to the customer
Yeah.
before I move to the next project. And the point being is that somebody says, oh, wow, it took 4 months to get from point A to point B. Yes, that's a true statement. Whenever you do these things, there's a lot of equipment, there's a lot of money spent,
Yeah.
there's a lot of talent from many trades, whether it be the welders, the pipers, the guys that run the excavating equipment, the electricians, the automation folk. You have all those people that it takes to put this together. And then you have to have smart operations folk in order to run it.
Absolutely.
So that's part of why we decided to do On the Dirt as a team. And Jim is a busy guy running the business, and he asked me, "Hey, why don't you just do On the Dirt? You like to talk to everybody, you do it." So
Dale,
that's how it came about.
can I make a request slash give an idea?
Sure.
Now that you guys are building panels, can we get a hashtag in the panel so you're on the dirt and in the panel?
So actually, what we did is I didn't do a hashtag, but I have On the Dirt. I started to say hashtag in the shop.
Okay. Okay, there you go. That's awesome because I was going to say we need to follow both of these stories as they're getting started there. I think that's going to be fun. And I
And
also like,
we're starting new panels for a new customer. I mean, we have
ooh,
new technicians building these things, so I've spent a lot of time explaining how the schematics work, what the components are, why we use what we use. There's a lot
yeah.
going on there, and the funny thing is I had we were trying to get some stuff out on our first set of panels, and I had 5 or 6 people in the shop all hunched around these 3 panels doing their thing, and I posted it and said that we were having a panel building party
Oh my
here at the
gosh.
shop. You're all invited. And then I specifically called out Tim Wilborn and said, you could be here. You
Oh
know,
my
we,
gosh.
so of course he came back and fired on me and said, why wasn't I invited? So
Tim is so funny. I love all of his posts too. He's very like quirky, like a kind of like us, So whenever
yeah.
he's posting, I just feel like you can feel his personality too. So he's definitely another fun person to interact with.
So
Um,
whenever I start, so anytime we have a panel building party, I always make sure and call out Tim Wilborn to let him know that we're having one. So
oh my gosh,
so
I
the
love that.
last one I posted about a panel building party, he said, "Why wasn't I invited?" I said, "Well, we can arrange that if you want to come over from Roanoke." So
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he's a little bit far, It may take him a bit of time to get there, but sounds like a party worth making it too.
yeah,
Oh my goodness. Dale, you do so much. Like I can't even imagine like your days are so busy. How I guess you're doing such a good job at everything, but the theme of failing for you is telling the audience within all this success of these things you've accomplished, where is somewhere in this whole scheme of things that you've struggled with? Maybe it's the time management, maybe it's the long hours you've worked, but
that
what is
both
something that you've had a hard time with? Yeah.
both. I mean, right. I'll be honest. Right now, it's just happened in this past week because of me being on the dirt half a day and then driving an hour and a half to the shop and being in the shop the other half of the day. Um, a couple of my teammates, Lisa Knight, who's our VP of operations, and Jim, the
Mhm.
president, they all kind of gave me the look like we're going to wear you out at this rate.
Yeah.
And so what has happened is our CFO, Chris, he is really good at knowing folks in the industry.
Mhm.
So we have just started this week. We have a project manager named Ashley that just started, and
Yay.
she is, for lack of a better way to say it, is to kind of guide me through the weeds. So whenever I design the projects and I get stuff moving, she's going to be tracking materials, tracking schedules, tracking the guys,
Mhm.
and taking that piece of the puzzle off of me on the time management side.
That's
Because
awesome.
everybody said that I was going to grind myself into the dirt instead of on the dirt.
They're using your own sayings against you. My goodness.
Yes, yes. So
I like that though, that they're actually caring enough and you're at a company where they want you to be okay and they want you to like
because
have the
I
bandwidth.
so I got a slight lecture from Lisa today when she said to me, there's things that you and I need to do together on projects. And she said, you can't do them if you're not here. So she
Yeah.
said, I'm putting out a new challenge for you. And I said, okay, do I need a new challenge or task?
I'm tired.
And she said, well, what it is I'm going to be pushing very hard for you to be in the shop all day, 2 or 3 days a week going forward.
Wow.
She said, we've got to get everybody else so they can do what they need to do because I need you to be here to help me guide things.
Yeah.
So we had a heart to heart today, and she said to
Aw.
me, I have to figure out a way to get you in the shop. So I'll be in the shop all day tomorrow. So
Well, that makes me feel better too that you're not going to be driving 200 miles every single day. So that is good. I'm glad that they are recognizing that you are a human being, whether or not you act like it. We see that you have like maybe you integrated some robot system in yourself to make yourself be able to go this hard, but it's awesome that it seems you work for a good company. So
well,
I'm
the
happy for
other
you.
thing, the other thing too is you can go hard when you're having fun,
Oh
and
yeah.
and you've seen one of my hashtags out there is field fun
Yes.
because we have a good time out there. We work hard. We want to make sure the customer has what they need, but we all interact with each other. We all have fun. Perfect example. Today, I was standing out there with five of the electricians. They already had the conduit buried in the ground, and so it's essentially frozen in the ground at this point. But
Yeah.
they needed to bend it, and it's 4-inch conduit,
Dang.
plastic conduit. They needed to bend it, so they went and they got like a torch unit, like you would burn grass off with,
Mm-hmm.
hooked it onto the propane tank, and heated up the conduit so they could bend it.
Oh my
And I have
goodness.
a picture that I didn't get a chance to post yet of one of the electricians, Clint, running the flamethrower, heating up the pipes so Travis could bend it while there is snow just absolutely blasting through the air while he's out there
Oh
running the
my
flamethrower.
gosh. I cannot
And
wait to see this post.
and I was standing there with Warren, the squad boss, and he looks at me and goes, you know what? He said, we better be having fun. We're standing out
Yeah,
here watching Clint run a flamethrower in a snowstorm.
that sounds exciting.
He says, we better like who we're with and what we're doing. Or he said, we're all nuts.
Yeah, I love that. I love that for you guys. That just sounds like a fun crew to be a part of.
Yeah. So it's, yeah, there's days where things go sideways and they don't go the way you want. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
back up and regroup. Like we had a thing where they had put conduit in the ground and there was water in the ditch and the conduit started to float. They didn't have any rock on top of
Oh
it, and the
no.
couplings all broke, and we had to pull it all back out of the ground and put it all back together again.
Oh my gosh, that is the worst.
So it was a bad day,
Yeah.
but everybody looked at each other and went, okay, I will glue it, let it dry overnight, and try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
So when we put it back in the ditch, we put about 2 ton of limestone over top of it to hold it down before we poured the concrete over top
Good
of it.
idea. Good idea.
So yeah, you
Oh.
kind of learn what your engineering is at that point in time. Like, you know what? There's nothing in that conduit. We have a very wet mix of concrete with water in it. What do you think is going to happen? It's going to float.
Yep.
We
Yep.
tried to,
Sometimes you
and
just
the
have to learn the
fellas,
hard way.
yeah, and the fellas tried to hold it down, and then the couplings all broke. I'm like, all right, yank it
Oh
out of the
my.
ditch, and let's try this again tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, Dale,
But
your life is
the
awesome.
thing is too, you say about what kind of things can a person do better, and I think one of the things that we all have to get better at is how to be decent to each other.
Yeah.
Because in the last two, with the pandemic and stuff, people have no patience, absolutely none, with
Mm-hmm.
service folks, with the restaurant people, with service people, providers like myself. People have no patience. Everything is right now, got to happen. And it's like, you know what, guys, unless you're delivering babies or you're doing a heart surgery, it's not life and death.
Yeah,
You know, we'll get through it, you know,
absolutely.
and I think that's the big thing is I've been doing better myself at patience, and especially with new team members, I have to be patient because they obviously don't have the experience that I have, and in
Hmm.
order for them to get there, I have to teach them. And there's a term that one of my dear friends, Mr. Woods, when I worked with years ago, he was a drive specialist, very smart man, and he used to tell me, he says, whenever you're working with other people, especially ones that are younger than you, he says, think about your engineering legacy. He said, what do you want people to say about you as an engineer whenever you don't do this anymore?
Yeah,
He said, and that's the key thing. Is he said, your takeaway is how do you want people to perceive what you did and where you came from and how you did it?
that's a big thought.
Yeah, and I know it's almost too deep. I get it, but
I no, I almost was gonna say as we're getting close to closing out, like, do you have anything else to add? And there you did it. You gave us the profound thought. I didn't even need to ask for it. It was unprovoked, and I love that. That is such a Dale thing to do. You were ahead of the curve.
so it's been an honor to be on here, and we'll have to talk down the road again because I'm sure there's
Yes.
other things that I get into or have done that you may find interesting that you may want to chat again someday, and I'm open for that. So we can have that conversation again as well, and we
Absolutely.
can try to teach folks more about what we do out there, and we'll keep doing that on the dirt, and then we'll keep doing it in the shop, and hopefully people can walk away and figure out that the natural gas industry is not this evil thing that's tearing the earth apart. No, what it is we're making it where people can afford to heat their houses. So
Dale, that's going to be a whole other episode. I have so many ideas already, but you're going to come back on. So I'm just glad this was an introduction to Dale, everybody. So if you've enjoyed him as much as I have, then good, lucky you, because he'll come back. We have so many things we talked about that we need to talk more about. So Dale, you will come back. It's just a matter of time.
well, I will whenever you put out the word, whether it's a month from now or 2 months from now, I'm in.
Sounds great. But guys, I once again I will link Dale's LinkedIn below so you can find him and his website for the company he works at or any related socials in case you want to connect with Dale and see what he's been up to and if you just want to feel a little inspired. So Dale, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Guys, thank you for listening to this podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Yates, and in the meantime, I'll be failing for you. See you next week.